Okay, everybody, welcome. So today we want to talk about the global grid. We draw this imaginary grid across our globe to help orient ourselves. How do we find a location without this grid? So there's no better place to start than our lines of latitude, okay? As you will hear me say soon, latitude gets an attitude if it doesn't come first. So no better place to start than our lines of latitude. So here we are. Let's go ahead and draw our Earth, okay? Perfect, beautiful brown Earth there. Even though we are known as the blue planet, I do suppose brown is fitting as well. So latitude, basically, we draw our lines of latitude and they run something like this. Maybe they don't extend quite as far, but I'm doing that for purposes of our grid here. So they run like so. So they can start in the west and end in the east. So they run this way. And oftentimes what you'll hear people refer to them as parallels. Okay, parallels. So latitude and parallels, those two terms are synonymous because if you look at each of these lines, they all are parallel to each other. So that's why we refer to them as parallels, okay? And once again, they run east to west or west to east. So you can see them running kind of, I guess what you would call horizontally, but they actually measure, what they actually measure is north to south, okay? So don't get confused. Even though they run this way, you can see them running this way, it's important to know that they run or measure north to south. So if we were to see that, let's go ahead and erase all this. If we were to see that in action, it would look something like this. Let's go ahead and draw Earth. I'll do it in blue this time. Here's our blue planet. There we go. So if we were to measure this, we would start in the center, okay? This line right here, this is at 0 degrees, okay? I'm gonna switch over to a smaller pen. Okay, so 0 degrees, this is what we call the equator. The equator. And again, that's at 0 degrees. So the equator runs like so, and it goes all the way up to the north and south pole. Those are both at 90 degrees north and 90 degrees south, okay? So those are your poles. They run all the way up like so. Now, while we're talking about lines of latitude, again, they run north to south. Before we depart, there are two more lines that are significant enough to point out. So basically what you have here is right about here like so, and one more here like so, at 23.5 degrees north and 23.5 degrees south. You have what we call the Tropic of Cancer. The Tropic of Cancer, and you also have the Tropic of Capricorn. Now, we won't necessarily get into, in this video, we won't necessarily get into why these lines are here. It's just important to note that these lines exist. We'll get to those in a later lesson. So if you've ever heard of somewhere referred to as a tropical climate, well, that's because the region right in between these two lines are what we call the tropics, right? So that's important to note. You also have the Arctic Circle up here and the Antarctic Circle down there like so. So those are important to note. So keep in mind, just to recap, these are our lines of latitude, also sometimes known as parallels, because they run parallel to each other. They run east to west when you look at it on a map, but they actually measure north to south. So that's important to note. We start at 0 degrees, that's our equator, runs all the way up to 90 degrees north and 90 degrees south. Those are our poles. At 23.5 degrees north and 23.5 degrees south, we have the Tropic of Cancer and Capricorn, respectively. The area in between are the known as the tropics. We've got the Arctic Circle up here at roughly 66 degrees north, and once again, about 66 degrees south. Those are our Arctic and Antarctic circles, respectively, as well. So remember, if you ever want to figure out how far north or south you are from the equator, 0 degrees, make sure that you are using your lines of latitude. All right, thanks for tuning in.